On Monday, Bernie Sanders held a town hall on climate change. And on that town hall was maybe one of the most impressive Republicans I have ever seen. So I'm going to show you a few clips here of Republican Mayor Dale Ross. He is the mayor of Georgetown, Texas, where it is the first city in Texas to move to 100% renewable energy. Yes, a Republican mayor moved an entire city to 100% renewable energy. So I'm not even sure if I'm going to have really much commentary for these clips. I have about 4 clips here, but I want more people to see this. So this is really the conservative argument for addressing climate change properly, and it's not something I've really seen before. So for me, it was impressive and something that more people really need to argue. So here's the first clip on Dale Ross talking about how he moved his city to 100% renewable energy.
We made our decision based on the facts. We went based on where the facts would be. And so what we wanted to do is achieve 2 things. One, we wanted to eliminate volatility in the short-term markets. Two, we wanted to have a electricity source that we could mitigate regulatory and governmental risk. And so when you have wind and solar, which are renewables and it's clean energy, there's not a whole lot that the federal government can screw up for you or the state government because there's not a whole lot to regulate. And what we were able to do is we were able to sign contracts for 20 and 25 years that our kilowatt per hour price does not increase over the terms of the 20 and 25-year contract. So if you assume normal inflation at 1.5% to 2%, what are we going to be looking at in 10 years? I think our rates will be considerably lower than those in surrounding communities.
Now, I mean, this is so obvious that it's kind of amazing to me that I never really thought to make the argument in this sort of way for conservatives before. Now, my audience generally aren't conservative, so I have no reason to make arguments for them, but this just makes sense. So, moving your city, Dale Ross moving his city to 100% renewable energy has allowed him to really deal with this issue based in small government. So this is the city dealing with the issue of energy. Moving it to 100% renewables has now allowed their energy bills to essentially stay steady with inflation for the next 10, 20 years. So, I mean, this is the economic conservative small government argument for addressing climate change. It keeps costs down. It saves people money. It saves business money. So Bernie mentioned this in one of the clips. It may be in one of these clips that I show or not. But if a business wants to find a new city to move or to open up business in, this would be a good place to go. A city where the energy costs are completely predictable because they're based on renewable energy. So just really, I'm sort of speechless because it bothers me. I never really thought about this before, but it's so obvious. So let me show you the second clip here where Dale Ross just talks more about this.
What arguments work for this new Republican Party?
Yeah, I think the best argument is you have to be a fact-based decision maker. And so I trust the scientists in their field that can land on Mars rover 300 million miles from here versus somebody that really doesn't have any education or expertise in climate change. We are at a tipping point right now where it's all about cost. And coal cannot compete with wind and solar on cost. And no matter who says we're going to bring coal jobs back, if you hear that, that's absolutely not true because they're not going to be able to compete in the market, and it's an open market. And so what we're looking at is we're looking at the tremendous job creation in wind and solar and renewables, because you got 3 kinds of renewables. You got wind, solar, and hydro. Hydro is out in Washington State, Oregon State, okay? And so if you look at Texas, we're number 1 in wind, and we're number 5 in solar, and we'll probably be number 1 in solar in a couple of years as well. Takes 3 people to run those 1.7 million solar panels on 1,250 acres. But up in Amarillo, where our wind farm is, there's 97 turbines. And those guys do maintenance day 1, and it takes them 30 days to get to turbine number 97. And the vast majority of the folks up there on that wind farm, they were in the oil patch. And they like, this is better pay, it's cleaner work. And like a guy told me, he says, hey, I'm 35, I'm going to retire as a technician out here because I really like my work, and it's going to be there, I think, forever.
So I remain speechless with this guy. I I didn't know these people existed. I mean, I guess this is the real difference between politicians at the federal level and at the local level. When you have, a local Republican mayor that just listens to the people in his community and what they deal with, then you're able to address issues on a much more fact based in a much more fact based way. So this is really the one thing that separates him from a lot of Republicans, and that's this mayor actually looks at fact based solutions. He actually listens to scientists. He actually understands that people that study this issue, that study the climate, likely have better information, better data than some random conspiracy theorist. So, I mean, again, I guess I'm kind of blown away that that this guy is Republican because it appears he's actually intelligent and listens to facts. But I mean, other issues here. So he brings up how renewable energy costs are better than coal. Again, sort of obvious, but this is a situation where you have Donald Trump talking about bringing the coal jobs back. How about just moving that to a different field of energy, moving it to wind farms or to solar panels or to hydro? The idea that the only way you can employ current coal workers is with new coal jobs is ridiculous. People change careers all the time. So we have to actually look at how do we take care of these people in that transition, ensure that they're taken care of, ensure their costs are covered, and ensure that they have a new career to go to that is just as lucrative, if not more lucrative. So he talks about how he has oil patch workers working on the wind turbines where it's better pay than what they were making at the oil patch, and also a cleaner job, obviously. So again, these are these are this is an industry where it's booming in terms of job growth, and also it's just better in terms of pay and the actual work itself. Now let's get to the third clip here, where there is just more of this.
That was tremendous because the fact of the matter is this: really, the cities and the counties are the ones that are tasked with providing electricity and utilities to their citizens. At the state level and federal level, not so much. Okay. Now the federal level can help, and I'll tell you what's coming up in Congress in 2020. The renewable energy credits expire in 2020, but you notice the fossil fuel credits do not expire in 2020. You notice that the fossil fuel is a mature industry that doesn't need a boost up. The renewable energy is still a little bit on the young side. If any industry is, and I'll make this deal. Okay, do away with the renewable credits, but do away from the fossil fuels. Let's have a level playing field and see who wins.
I love this guy. This is, I mean, if this was how most Republicans were, we would be able to have an actual debate about issues because we would both be coming from the place of facts and data. So he talks about here how, I mean, essentially he describes what is crony capitalism, how the renewable energy credits expire because there isn't much lobbying power or much money from the green industry pumped into Washington compared to the fossil fuel industry. So the fossil fuel energy credits don't expire. And obviously, it's because the fossil fuel industry heavily lobbies and funds a lot of these campaigns in Washington. So this is crony capitalism 101. And he's aware of it and he discusses it and exposes it. This is an actual principled conservative who actually cares about keeping costs down and actually looks at the real facts. Now, let's get to the last clip here where, I don't know, there's more.
I think we have a duty and obligation to leave the world better than we found it, okay? And I think if you look in the Bible, there's all kinds of points made about being a servant and having a servant's heart. And if I can just change the world just this much before, hopefully, I go northbound, then I think it will be a life well lived. And I think that's what we can expect. I hopefully when I'm dead and gone, the poets will write poems and the songs just people enjoy. Somebody singing songs and odes about me when I'm gone, or maybe just put a little statue somewhere. But in all seriousness, it's all about leaving something better than you found it. And I think we're on the path in Georgetown to making that happen.
I mean, this guy's just fantastic. So now this is the religious argument for addressing climate change. So before he was talking about the the economic argument, the conservative argument, keeping costs down, keeping government small. Now this is the religious argument, looking at the earth as, look, something that, if you are religious, you believe that God created the earth, shouldn't you take care of it? Shouldn't you want to leave it in a better shape than how you found it, than how you were born into this life? So this idea that I think really what's happened is right-wing media has been essentially Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, and everything in between. Just this sort of, it's almost, it's not even about policy or about making any logical arguments. It's really just been a culture war. So when you treat politics as a culture war, you ignore actual policy issues. You ignore facts, you ignore data, you ignore science, because all you care about doing is winning the game. For you, it's like a sport. So if you can somehow outmaneuver your opponent in a discussion, then you win. But for me, and for many on the left, I would say most of us, politics is about actual issues. How do we help people? How do we make the environment cleaner? How do we raise wages? How do we create jobs? When you treat these issues as actual political issues based in data, based in science, then you come to better solutions. So this conservative, this Republican mayor of Georgetown, Texas, has done that. He's looked at the data, at the science, and he's looked inward at his religious beliefs and how he feels about how he should be able to, or how he should treat the earth. All of this should make sense to any principled conservative. So if you're a conservative out there, or you know somebody who is conservative, share these clips with that person. Watch this and truly try and understand how maybe you lost your way, because this is an actual conservative that is principled in his arguments, and he thinks that we should be taking climate change seriously.